Now let's take a closer look at some of those exemptions. They're part of Beijing's waiver program, which comes amid slower economic growth in the face of that trade war. The concession will come into effect on September the 17th. That's ahead of next month's trade talks. Washington and Beijing have taken turns to impose tariffs on billions of dollars worth of each other's goods since early 2018. For the latest, let's cross over to our correspondent Olivia Xiong. She's in Beijing for us. Olivia, are the trade exemptions enough to help China's economy? What will happen after these exemptions are in place?
Well, the exemptions will take effect from Tuesday and will be in place for a year. And economists are saying that, looking at the list of the exempted goods, that this is likely to also support China's economy. But the question is by how much? And the indication is that the boost for China's economy may be somewhat limited. And perhaps the bigger question to ask is what sort of impact this latest move from China will have on the upcoming trade talks at the working level this month, as well as next month, when we are expecting high-level talks to resume in Washington. And that's because economists are saying that this move by China may not really be a huge concession from the country, and that's for a few reasons. The first reason is that China is not the first to offer exemptions. The U.S. exempted over 100 Chinese products in July. Secondly, we also see that this move of China's has been contemplated since May. And if we were to look at the bigger picture, these are just 16 products that are receiving the exemption out of 5,000 types of U.S. goods that already have these additional duties levied on them. And if we were to look at more specifically at the types of goods that are being exempted, here we're talking about certain pharmaceutical products as well as chemicals and lubricants. Now, these are not major U.S. Imports for China, unlike certain agricultural products like soybean and corn, and these are not on the exemption list. And so analysts are saying that these farm products can continue to be leveraged for Beijing as it enters into those trade negotiations with the U.S. And in the even larger picture, we have to see that, we have to know that this trade war has been going on for more than a year, and it seems that both sides are not showing signs of compromising their position. The U.S. wants to see that China make structural changes to address market access issues and what it sees as unfair industrial subsidies, while China says that there is a red line, that its national interests cannot be compromised. And so we are at this deadlock is where we stand right now.
So separately, Olivia, let's look at the all-important issue of pork prices. They've soared due to that rather devastating African swine fever crisis. Beijing has now put in place some policies to curb those prices. How effective are they, though?
Well, today, Chinese officials held a news conference briefing reporters on the current situation with regard to pork prices and pork supply. And what they seem to say is that while there are measures being put in place and more measures to come, that these will take some time to bear fruit. That's because some of the long-term measures that the Chinese government is putting in place are meant to boost pork production, because after all, we've seen over 1 million pigs, or about a third of the pig herd here in China, being culled since June, and that has pushed up pork prices by 47% in August compared to last year. And so right now, what we are hearing from the Chinese government at the news conference today is that the issue of self-sufficiency must be addressed, and has set a target that China must achieve 95% self-sufficiency for its pork supply. And so it said that ministries are rolling out various measures to encourage farmers to expand their output and continue to rear pigs. Local governments are also expected to do more and to take overall responsibility for the pork supply in their province. But these are all in the long term. What the Chinese government is also concerned about is the short term, given the growing discontent over the increase in pork prices that we've seen over the last few months. Now, so in the short term, officials say that supplies will be sufficient for the holiday period, and coming up we have the Mid-Autumn Festival, and a bit further down the road in January, the very important Lunar New Year festival in January. And given that pork is a staple of the Chinese diet. This is important, and Chinese officials are wanting to assure citizens that, this is in control. And the government says it's studying plans to tap into its reserve stock as well for the holiday period. Also, given that, there is concern that the discontent over the pork prices could, put a dampener on the upcoming celebrations to mark the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. So all these considerations being taken in by the Chinese government.